Peace, power, prosperity. Peace, power, prosperity. We have a interview here with a legend himself. I'm glad to get this interview done because I feel as though a lot of youth here in this city need to understand the contributions of our elders and this particular individual as well. If you could, sir, if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Marvin Crenshaw.
Okay, okay. All right, so he's been active in the community for many, many years, decades, or whatnot. He was an active member of the Dallas branch of the Black Panther Party as well. And if you could, Mr. Crenshaw, just to kind of start us off, tell us where you from originally.
I was born and reared in Austin, Texas. But I'm a product, educationally, I always tell people this, of three different systems. I went to Austin school district, the Texas school, the Kansas school district, and the St. Louis, Missouri school district going on up. And then when I got when I got to seventh grade, my mother moved us back to Austin. Mm-hmm. And then, but my father, my stepfather, he was a Dallasite.
Okay.
That's how how we got to Dallas. He was a Dallasite, and
okay.
Lived right over by Lincoln High School. Graduated of Lincoln. Then he was a student at Houston Tillerson in Austin.
Okay.
And that's when my mother met him.
Okay. Okay. So do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have two brothers. My sister's deceased. She's the oldest. Mm-hmm. But I have two brothers. One lives in Houston, and one lives in Austin. And the one in Austin, he played for the Green Bay Packers for about 11 years. But he's severely injured now from all the hits and the falls and kicks and everything.
Okay.
So he's here and there.
Gotcha. Talking a little bit about, I understand you're a veteran. Is that right?
I'm a veteran, yeah.
Okay. What branch, and if I may ask, what was your MOS?
I was in the Army, and I was an ordnance supply clerk. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I was before I was in the Army. I was a student at Texas Southern University.
Okay.
I had so I got a football scholarship there, but then I got drafted.
What position you played in football?
I was tailback, defensive back, whatever they had the scrubs playing.
Okay.
But with Texas Southern, it was much different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you played football, and you got drafted.
I got drafted.
What year did you get drafted?
65.
65. So you talking about a whole time frame where you had to. You correct me if I'm wrong. It went by your birthday.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
I guess so. Yeah.
Whatever classification they had you, and you were somebody that got drafted.
I got drafted. I went in one day from practice, and I went to my mailbox and had this letter in there. And I was saying, "What is this?" And then I saw that they were trying to draft me. Mm-hmm. And at the time, incidentally, Muhammad Ali had come through Houston several times. Mm-hmm. And so there was a little reluctance on my part to go. And then I had an uncle who lived in Minnesota who was trying to fight it for me. Mm-hmm. On the draft. But I eventually went in.
Gotcha. So you went in 65, and this was, correct me if I'm wrong, this was during the time of Vietnam.
Yes.
So was that, if I may ask, was that some of your apprehension? You didn't want to go?
Well, I wasn't going to go, because as I stated, Muhammad Ali had come through Houston, and as athletes, we were listening to him, and so I wasn't going to go, and that's what I said at first. But then I eventually left school and went. So, and then as I was leaving, ironically, because when I went to Texas Southern, as far as the athletics, I didn't have a scholarship. I went out and got on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And as I remember one day, when I was leaving, getting ready to leave at least, the head coach there, he always called me little boy because I was smaller than anybody down. And he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I got drafted." He said, and Coach Clifford Paul, I had my brother laughing the other day because he had a foul mouth.
Mm-hmm.
"God damn it, little boy, what are you doing? Talking about you going in, I said, "Well, I'm almost there." He said, "Hell, I was getting you ready to for the summer to put me on one of those programs as far as gaining weight and all of that, And you gone." Yeah, that's the last time I saw him.
Mm.
But I went in '65, and one of the things that because I was always I knew when I was a young boy, that the only way I was going to get to go to college was I either going to have to get a scholarship, football or something, But ironically, what I did before I went to Texas Southern, I'll give you that information. I had gone to Warden College. It's right outside of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I had written them a letter and told them that wanted if I get a scholarship, etc. So they invited me down, and I went down to Warden, and I made the team. And before I left, my uncle was a all-state football player in Austin. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and his word to me said, "Look, I'm gonna tell you something. Now you going down there, but you have to understand something is that it might not be what you think it is. The coach might not like you, or anything might happen." So when I went down to Warden, I had a part-time scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
and the dude that I was rooming with, he had a full-time scholarship. He was supposed to be an all-state running back, and so it came up that I was moving him out of the way.
Ah.
And so I remember him coming in one day, and he was saying, "Well, why don't you go try out for another position?" I said, "No, I'm not gonna do any of that, And so eventually, the running backs coach, he was always saying, "You're the best thing we have down here, And so one day the head coach, he called me into his office and told me that I was being kicked off the team. I said, "For what?" And he was saying, "Well, y'all making that noise up there." I was in the same dorm with some basketball players. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, and not any of that. But they were up all night smoking weed and doing everything else.
Right.
And I told him, I said, "I don't do any of that." He said, "Yeah, but you up there with him." I said, "Well, I got to be up there because that's where it in." But anyway, as they were kicking me off the team, I had cursed them out. And ironically, my brother came up from Texas Southern because he was coming up just to check on them. And I went down to Houston. And then one day I was just standing up there, and a neighborhood friend, he was also at Texas Southern. He said, "Why don't you go out there and play? Ask them to get on the team." Right. So I talked to the coach, and he was just laughing. He said, "Boy, you just too little to be out here."
How tall were you? What was your weight?
About 150, 150, 155.
Okay.
But they were 200, 250. But anyway, I went out, and I made the team.
Right.
So, but as I stated, he had told me that, I'm gonna put you on what do they call it when they trying to get the football?
Practice squad?
No, well, I was on the practice squad, yeah. But when they kept trying to get you to gain weight, and you doing all that eating and all that other kind of stuff. What do they call it,
Athletes.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, he said, "And we want you to go to summer camp and pick up you some weight, But it was too late. In my mind, I was gone.
Right. So what years did you spend in? What branch were you in?
I was in the Army.
Okay. What years did you spend in the Army?
65 through 68.
Okay.
In Vietnam was at its height then. But one reason that I knew about, we knew about Vietnam, especially in Austin, is because one of my best friends in high school went into the Army, and he was killed. He was one of the first got killed in Texas. And so we had this big thing going on. But anyway, I got in, and they told me, this one sergeant, he was saying, don't worry about it, we know that you can play football, and we'll get you on the team, but that's all you do.
Right.
And ironically, that happened to Mr. Williams too, because he's an all-state basketball player.
Okay.
And they told him the same thing. We'll get you in there, and all you have to do is you're gonna play basketball, you know. But once I got in, that was different.
So, my father is also a veteran in the Marine Corps, and he spent 13 months in Vietnam. And one of the things he always talked about was some of the interactions with the NCOs and some of the officers.
Right.
And he felt like it wasn't always the best interaction. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
In terms of being a black man. That was one of the things that first fired him up to kind of look at the world a little different. Do you have any common experiences where you felt like there was some differences with NCOs or officers?
Yep, I did, particularly when I got to basic at Fort Polk, Louisiana. I had plenty of problems with some of the officers, some of the NCOs that just came back from Vietnam in particular. Because I remember one time we were out on the firing range, and I'd been having a problem with this one man, and we were out there. I remember him telling me, "Go out there and look at the target. You know, go out there and look at that, and bring it back up here." And I went out there, and I heard somebody say, "Hold your fire, hold your fire." You didn't sit me out there knowing that they were getting ready to
fire.
Yeah. So I came back, and we always had it out while I was there, because I never forgot that. But then there was a lot of young people like myself, young men who, you know, coming in who didn't want to be there, and that was my first time hearing about somebody being a conscientious objector. Because I remember coming in one day, and it was this white boy, and they were the rest of them, someone trying to pull him downstairs and gonna make him get into the and get into the squad and all that kind of stuff. And I asked myself, "Why don't y'all leave that man alone?" They said, "Well, he's an objector." I didn't know what a conscientious objector was at that time. But anyway, I got them off of him, and we came downstairs, and eventually he got out though, because I didn't see him anymore while I was up at Fort Polk. But Fort Polk was an eye opener, but I had plenty of. They said I had attitude problems, but because I was, I had found out exactly what I was getting into, and so I was a PFC when I went there. I was a PFC when I got out 3 years later.
Right. So the entire Army situation, obviously you saw a few things. You did maintain your bearings. You made it through. You get back to the United States. So what do you do first when you get back?
Well, and let me tell you something. What happened to me when I was in the Army? I was around people because I went to Fort Polk. Then I went up to Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland, which was a larger place, and there was a lot of brothers there who were Muslims. A couple of people who had been active with the Black Panther Party. It was a total different set there. So I began to learn a lot about myself and just different things then. And then I began. Oh, I'll tell you, the first book that I actually really read was that they were passing around in the barracks for us to read was Pimp, The Story of My Life by Iceberg Slim. Yeah. everybody read that two or three times. And so,
that's funny.
But there were a lot of brothers from the nation that were up there that come in. So I knew about the nation, and I knew about Malcolm when I was in high school.
Right.
And I used to have that. In fact, I had it with all my other stuff. Was that when Malcolm was assassinated, when they had him on Life magazine, I had that. I've been having it for years. But that was I won't gonna see it again. As I found another one. But and I just and at that time, you know, growing, there was a whole lot of young brothers who had been leading different lives from L.A., Chicago, or wherever. You know, we all met and you know talked about different things. You know.
Right. Right. So when you get back to the U.S., you said 60.
I got it in 68.
68. So you leave the army in 68. You're good to go. What happens next when you get?
Well, see, in 67.
Okay.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking. My daughter was asking me about some of the same question. In 67. In 66, when I was in Aberdeen Proving Ground, they were going to ship us to Vietnam. They let us go home for the weekend. So I went to Austin, came to Dallas because that's where my parents were living at the time. And when I get back, everybody's gone. They shipped them out, you know.
And you got lucky because you left for the weekend.
Yeah. Well, there was a few of us, you know.
Right.
But then I got orders later on to go to Germany.
Okay.
But at that time, my whole psychology and my whole thought process had changed, and like I said, I was around a lot of people from the West Coast and who had been involved in different organizations, and so my mind was changing. And then I went to they put us on a ship to Germany, which was 8 days. You know, but let me go back to something, and my daughter tells me I should talk about it all the time. She said my calling when I was in the fourth grade, I had a homeroom teacher who is now in the Kansas Black Hall of Fame up there.
Right.
And this was about 1957, somewhere around there. But she had she was with the Colored People's Organization, as they called it at that time, and sort of active in the NAACP. And she had a program. She'd gotten a program, and all her students were going to be on the TV in Kansas. You know, something that really had never been done. And so I remember asking me, say, Marvin, can you do 2 people? I said, yes, ma'am, I think I can do it. And she chose W.E.B. Du Bois. And who's the next one? I can think of it. Anyway, so we were on TV. And so I did that. But my mother always, she tells me that now, my mother's 99.
Right.
She'll tell me, she said, boy, I think sometime I never should have let you go on that TV program. You know? And that started changing my mind about different things.
Right.
And then while I was going to school, and this is still in elementary school in Kansas, I began to be around a lot of things and see some things. And I was always a decent writer.
Right.
And I used to just write things in my classes. In fact, I was so good, I used to write love letters to the young girls in there for different students, and they would always give me, a quarter or something.
Right.
That's how I could get my lunch and all this stuff.
Right.
But another big change that I had is that when I moved to St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
In St. Louis, it was totally different from Kansas. I mean, totally different. And
how so?
well, it was just the people and the music and everything else. More black people up there. And East St. Louis, that's where Ike and Tina Turner. We used to listen to radio then, and Chuck Berry had a club there. And Ike and Tina Turner would always come in at night, and we were up all night. Everybody was up all night listening to music, And so it was the culture was just different. And the best 19th of June that I can remember is when I went to East St. Louis with this man where my mother was renting a house from. He took me to East St. Louis. They had a big parade. I mean, it was nice. I never forgot it. But that was a big change. But what else happened to me while I was in St. Louis? You timing me. My school, my homeroom teacher, he used to tell me all the time. He said, "Boy, we got big plans for you." You know,
Right.
because I guess, and as I got older, I could see that my teachers that I had, the one in Kansas, they all communicated. He said, "Boy, we got big plans for you up here."
Right.
So I remember, one morning at least when I got to the class, you know, 'cause we used to take our lunches then, you know, and I had my mother had always fixed a good lunch. I had it in there in the back of the closet where all the coats were, and I went back there and this white dude was eating up all my food, and I had a clash with him. I jumped on him, and you know, my homeroom teacher got mad at me. He said, "Boy, you crazy." He said, "You know, we have." He again said, "We have big plans for you up here, and you're crazy." I wanted to tell him, "I'm not crazy than your son." They call his son Shotgun because he was about 3 years older than I was. And he always walked around with a shotgun. But and then we would go to the malt shops and things after class. And I remember I was sitting in there, and this white boy that I had that clash with, he came in. He said, "Marvin, I want to apologize." He said, "There are 13 of us in our family, and I just didn't have anything to eat." So I got to talking to him, and sort of got to know him. So whenever I had some spare quarters or something, I get to him. And that's when I realized that white people were poor also in the West. There was 13 of them in his family. So I always remember that.
So I guess you get back to the U.S. No longer in the Army. You're in civilian. What do you do next?
Well, I went back to Austin, and I planned. I've been writing different colleges while I was in the Army, and my uncle, through marriage, lived in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. When I was young, in fact, I was telling his son about it the other day. When I was about 15, he would always tell me that if I wanted to leave Texas, that I could come to Minneapolis.
Right.
Okay. And so I decided to go to. I was going to move to Minneapolis. Well, I couldn't find anything in Dallas, no community college or anything where they had a football team. But as I remember when I was downtown walking around and talking to people, that's when they had a big incident with the Black Panther Party, in Dallas with Curtis Gaines and all of them. But I didn't. I mean, that stayed in the back of my mind, but I didn't know who I didn't know any. But anyway, I left and I went.
And just so folks know, don't cut y'all. Hold that thought. Who was Curtis Gaines?
Curtis Gaines was, I guess, the founder and the originator of the Dallas, obviously, chapter in here.
Right.
Yeah, this was in '68.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. And so I got on a bus and I went up to Minnesota, Minneapolis. And but before and I have to put this in, before I had gotten out of the Army, we would all get together, all brothers, and we had a couple of white boys was in there with us, just talking about different things. And at the time, I was a Martin Luther King. I said I was a Martin Luther King man.
Right.
Okay. But that was his brother from Chicago. He would always come to me and say, "Man, I don't understand you." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Now you up here talking about you nonviolent every week and you knocking somebody out."
Right.
So
that's a contradiction.
Yeah, that was a basic contradiction.
Yeah.
And so I began to just start reading different things, and I read about Malcolm. Then there was a white boy that went to Berkeley. He was a second lieutenant, and his father was some kind of colonel or something in the Army. But he was over our little platoon, and he was always listening to what we were saying, And one day he came up to me and said, "Crenshaw, He said, I want you to ride somewhere with me. He had him a nice little new 68 Porsche, 67 Porsche or whatever. And he said, I just want you to go some places with me and I want you to see some things. So, and he said, don't worry about it because I can get you a pass, you know, with his, he was an officer. And so he took me up to Amsterdam or to Holland. And he was all on the way. That's all he talked about. He said, every time I hear the brothers talk, you know, because we always had all things, you know, and he was over us. He said, every time I hear you, you sound like Huey Newton and Bobby Seale and Eldridge Cleaver. Mm-hmm. And he said, you heard of them? I said, yeah, I heard of them, but when I get back, I'm going to play football.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. He'll get involved in anything. But there's one brother from Chicago, the one who's always on me about different things. And I was also working in the arms room. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so he would always come to me and say, man, because I was, when we had lunch or anything like that, I was always lifting weights and exercising and all that other kind of stuff. But he came up to me and he said, don't you see these people watching you? And I said, who? And one day he came up and he tapped me on my shoulder. He said, them. And all those sergeants and things, they were all up at the window. And so they eventually got me taken out of the arms room, and I just became, you know, whatever. And I was, and we were reading and listening to music and growing. And one of the brothers that was there with me, his name was John Shanklin, and he was from East St. Louis.
Okay. And
he used to always have all this jazz music at night, you know. But we'd be up all night listening to music. And I didn't drink, okay, but I did smoke some weed at that time. I didn't know what it was, but I mean, yeah, I was smoking. But anyway, and Shanklin eventually in probably 72, 73, he knew somebody that lived in Dallas that he went to college with. Mm-hmm. He had the brother to get in touch with me because this man, he brother worked with in the city manager's office. He said, do you remember a man named John Shanklin? I said, yeah, I remember Shanklin. He said, well, he saw you on TV and he wanted you to get in touch with him. And I did. He said, man, I always, and then he and his wife said, man, I always knew you were going to be something other than a football player. But, but that's, well, but I used to hear about the party. And in fact, another incident that happened to me was that John Carlos and Tommy Smith.
Okay. With the
Yes. As I stated, there was a group of us who were athletes, and I told them all, I said, when we get up and we go to formation in the morning, that's what we're going to do. Mm. You know,
throw the fist.
Yeah. And what happened, nobody showed up. I guess the word got around to all of it, even the white boys. Yeah. And so you know, nobody showed up. But at that time, I was...
That's in 68.
68. Yeah, 68. Mm-hmm. But during my time in the Army, when I was talking to Marilyn Clark, I was telling her about one time that one of the brothers, he was a sergeant, he had gotten jumped on and beaten severely. And we all got together and said, we're not going to let this go by. We're going to let this pass. And so we were having some kind of big party that weekend, and that's when we were supposed to make our move. But the brother's name was Nicholas Smith. He was from Texas, Pecos, Texas. He pulled me to the side and said, home, don't do this because they're going to leave you out there by yourself. Mm. I should have been drunk, and I should have been walking around like that. Mm. I said, nah. We're gonna have to do something. And we did. Mm. So they had a big NCO party. They were all over, drinking and stuff. And so I saw these two white boys coming out, and we had it out. And then one of the white boys grabbed me, and he was strangling me, you know. And this one dude from he was Puerto Rican, he was from L.A., he ran up there and hit him.
Oh.
And and then there's another one when they got a sergeant who was also a Puerto Rican. He came back by and said, "Let that man go," you know. And then they let me go. You know, then I really went to work on him. and so I was and the white boys before they left, they got out a year before I did. I was up in the enlisted men's thing bar, and he was telling me, he said, "Crenshaw, I just want to let you know something." He said, "I've never been hit so hard in my life. I'm not gonna never forget it." But I had a lot of different. I started having all kind of incidents at that time, and then as I stated, I was talking to other people who were involved in the with the party. Some who had gone through the nation. We were over in Germany. They were coming from Vietnam. By me working in the arms room, I keep dropping this. It was by me working in the arms room when they came from Vietnam into Germany. They had to pass through there and put their arms up and everything. But I was always talking to them, and it was just some of it was heartbreaking. But I was always talking to them, and I guess I was really getting changed myself, but I didn't realize it at the time. So, and when I left the place in Germany, coming back to the States, they always have a big bus for you to leave on and all this stuff. When I got up to to go, there was no bus, there was nobody out there, but I had gotten my ticket and stuff that night, and so I didn't know how I was going to get to where I was down to Frankfurt, Germany, which is quite a distance, and they didn't care either. But it was some Germans came by in a truck, and they would heard what I was saying, Fußball, 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 telling the driver, and they stopped, and they have what they call a foosball. We call that soccer and all that stuff, kicking the ball. But anyway, they asked me what was going on, and I was getting together, talking broken English and all that. But I told them that I was getting out. I showed them my paper and everything, and they said, "Well, how you go? How you go?" I said, "I don't have no way." And he said, "I tell you what we do. We'll take you as far as we can." And they had taken me from where I was up into a place called not Bremerhaven, one of those havens anyway. And they told me to as far as they could go, because they had to take care of what they wanted to do. But what I did